So, hello everybody and welcome. Yes, welcome back here at BSN Network. Today, welcome back here, BSN Network. This is the BSN Network podcast here today. It is Monday, November 2nd. Hope everybody's having a good day so far and a good rest of their day yesterday and had a good weekend. It is, in fact, November 2nd. We are now in November, which means football, these upcoming, like I said on the Friday, these upcoming football games are really huge. They're really big. These upcoming weeks, you're really going to start to see people talking about playoffs. Now that we're a full month and a half through the season, this is the second full month, we're going to really get to really tell who's in, who's out, who's could be come down to those final 2-3 weeks of the season. We'll figure it out. We'll talk about the division winners, all that stuff. But we're not going to talk about that today, obviously. It was another good weekend of football. But like I said, we obviously, you got a lot of good football coming up. A lot of big games coming up. A lot of marquee matchups. A lot of games that are going to decide a lot. Meaning, you got, is this team going to be, it's going to be one of those things where, is this team going to be in or out? Could it come down to the final week of the season? Wild card spots, right? That's November football. You're really going to start to really see the playoff picture shape out since we are 8 weeks into the season. And I enjoyed watching football yesterday, although I did not enjoy watching my New York Jets, although, I always watch them every weekend, but it was not a fun experience once again. The New York Jets get absolutely blown out by the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, I was very angry. I was very angry at the New York Jets, not happy at all, but I understand. I get that they were going to lose. I knew going into yesterday they're going to lose. I mean, the first 8 weeks of the season, I've known they were going to lose for all 8 weeks of the season, and they're going to lose next week. And, I know a lot of people are talking about, they might be able to beat the Patriots because the Patriots are so bad. You just have to watch the Jets, and you understand why we all think they're going to go 0-16. Obviously, I think that, the Jets yesterday, they did not play a good game. I mean, there's not much else that has to be said. They did not play a good game. The Chiefs played the better game, and we'll get into it. I mean, the New York Jets just embarrassed again. And like I said, I don't know how many more times of these embarrassing losses we have to have in order to get rid of our head coach. I mean, I don't know how many more weekends, week in and week out, how many more Sundays, how many more Mondays, how many more Thursdays. Whenever we play, it's either one of those days. How many more weekends are we going to have to sit here and watch this miserable team play and get blown out for us to finally, this organization to finally step up to the plate and get rid of a disaster of a head coach in Adam Gase? I mean, if you follow what I'm saying, just how, when will this happen, if you know what I'm saying? So, definitely it's going to be interesting, and I'm interested to see how this rest of the season plans out. I think we will go 0-16, but we're going to talk about it, obviously, today on the podcast tonight. We got another New York football team in action. We got the New York Giants and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We'll preview that game in a little bit, but we will obviously review the full Sunday of football. And these are the topics today. We'll talk about NFL games, talk all of what happened yesterday, give you kind of a review on another Sunday of football. So we'll talk about that. Then we got the fantasy football results. We'll talk about results. I still got both teams. I'm winning in my one league by 4, and in my other league I'm tied. But I have both players going in both leagues. So I have Mike Evans in one league, and I have Ronald Jones in the other league. So hopefully I win in both those weeks, because these are actually 2 big weeks for me in both leagues. So hopefully I win there. Then we'll talk about the college football games. We'll talk about another week of college football in the books as well. Miami had a bye week, so I found myself really scrolling through a lot of the games and trying to figure out what to watch because Miami was on a bye week. But Miami plays this upcoming Friday, so that should be a good game. But yeah, with all that being said, this is the BSN Arc podcast, and let's get right into it. So another week of the NFL season is in the books. We started off with the Falcons-Panthers on Thursday night, and we're ending it tonight with the Buccaneers and the New York Giants facing off on Monday Night Football. We'll talk about that game in just a bit. It was another weekend of football. It was another good weekend of football. I watched the Jets sat there and suffered watching the Jets. I watched that Bears game was very good. Obviously saw the Eagles game, very good game. Although that Eagles game was close, but it was pretty boring. I mean, there was not much scoring. I mean, I had a feeling there was going to be much scoring. Two non-overpowering offenses, one coming in with a third-string quarterback who's never made a start, and another one who just straight up doesn't have a good offense. And you thought maybe the Eagles could be solid because they do have because they are playing against the Cowboys defense, but the Cowboys defense actually played decent, but we'll get to that. This week I actually had a pretty rough week. I know it might sound crazy because there was a couple picks where I actually got correct, but this week I actually did not have my best week for the picks. Now we still have tonight's game, which would make it look a whole lot better, but this week I went 7-6 so far, and then obviously we have tonight's games. Hoping I go 8-6, and I'm actually pretty confident I'm going to go 8-6 on my pick tonight. But I only went 7-6 this week in my game pick, so I did not have the best week in the world. It still gets me over 500. I mean, if I lose tonight's pick somehow, some way, I think I am feeling very confident about my pick tonight. But if I somehow mess up tonight's pick, I will be 500 for the first time all season, meaning in a week. I moved to 81-40 overall with this 7-6 week. And I said I want to get near 100, 110 wins, but that's not going to happen if I get 7-win weeks. So, or 8-win weeks, whatever, if I get the pick correct tonight. So, I'm 7-6 so far this week. Now, still got the game tonight to pick. So, was not my best week, but it does move me to 81-40 overall in my game pick. So, not amazing, not horrible, but we are, 121 game picks into the book, so 81-40, I guess, is a pretty solid record. Like I said, I kind of want to finish in the 105, 115 range, and, finish above 500. I think I will. I don't imagine me finishing below 500 on the year in picks. So, 7-6, depending on how tonight's game goes, I'll be either 8-6 or 7-7, hopefully 8-6, but was not my best week for picks overall, but still, hopefully, we'll at least finish 500. At worst, I finished at 500, so, and not the worst ever, but definitely was not my strongest week ever. So let's get into the games, and specifically the New York Jets. We'll talk about them first. And this is kind of your weekly segment of me bashing the miserable, the torn apart, the ruined, the every bad word you could think of. I've said this so many times. I've said this for 8 weeks now. Every bad word you could think of, New York Jets. I mean, atrocious, horrible, bad, ruined, miserable. Any of those words work perfectly with the New York Jets. And we got crushed again. Now, I want to tell you this. I was angry that they lost, but I was not expecting them to win. Nor did I expect them to win any of the 8 weeks before the season. The only week I maybe thought they were going to win was not even thought. I did predict them to lose. But the only week, if you go in with some sort of optimism, is week 1. Because you haven't seen your team play yet. And that is the one thing. The only week you go into the season, I predicted the Jets to lose week 1. The only week you can go into the season, now obviously you can't go into, I can't all of a sudden say, Jets are going to win on Monday night. That's not happening. I need to see the Jets string a couple wins together for me to actually think that I'm going to predict them to win. So I was expecting the Jets to lose this game, and I was expecting them to get crushed. I thought I had them losing 42-7. They lost 35-9. But here's the problem with the New York Jets. They were stringing, and the same thing with the Bills game. They were getting a couple of drives. They couldn't score touchdowns, though, and that was the serious problem. And everyone's saying this, and this is the problem with the New York Jets. They've had problems all year getting into the end zone. You can kick field goals all you want. If you can't get into the end zone, I'm sorry, you're not going to be able to win a game, especially against the defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. How dominant their offense is. It is not. You cannot kick 3 field goals and expect to win against the Kansas City Chiefs. You cannot kick 3 field goals and expect to win against many teams in the NFL. You can expect to win kicking 6 field goals against the New York Jets because the Bills did that 2 weeks ago, but you cannot expect that. You cannot expect to go into the game, score 9 points, and beat the Kansas City Chiefs, kick 3 field goals in the first half, and expect, we're going to win this game. You cannot do that. And once again, the New York Jets and their offense stalled too in the second half. They had a good They had like 110 yards, 115 yards. They were sustaining long drives. And then in the second half, just everything falls downhill. And I've always said this about the New York Jets because I've been a fan for a long time now. I've always said this about the New York Jets. They've always been this way. I don't know if it's just me. I don't know if it's just, I'm sure a lot of fans are like this. I don't know if it's just straight up the fact that you could come out of the gate roaring and in the second half your stats are going to be maybe a little lower. I don't know what it is. But I've always felt the Jets to be a second half miserable. I mean, they've always been miserable in the second half. I've always found that for the New York Jets. And even last season, year before that, I mean, I've read you this fascinating stat. 3 years ago, I'm pretty sure. It was the year after we went 10-6. Todd Bowles led Jets. We went into that season, or maybe it was actually Todd Bowles' final season, one of his final seasons. But I remember we had a lot of really good games. We lost against the Patriots, but I think we only lost by a field goal. I remember we lost to the Carolina Panthers. We blew a lead. I remember we blew it to the lead to the Dolphins, who ended up making the playoffs. I remember we blew a lead to the Packers. We were winning 35-20, and we ended up losing 38-35. In the fourth quarter, we blew the lead there. It was actually Darnold's rookie year. I think it was Darnold's rookie year, or maybe it was the year before that. I don't know. But either way, we ended up. It might have been a year before that was the Carolina Panthers game. But anyway, I know. And then we had the lead win against the Chiefs. I know we had a lot of the one season we went 5-11. If the games were three quarters, we would have won 11-5. And they projected us. We would have been the first wild card into the playoffs. So it really does stink. And I've always felt this out of the New York Jets is we're just not a second half team. I've always felt this not just this season, especially this season. I mean, last week we had 4 total yards in the second half. I mean, you can't possibly win a football game getting 4 yards in the second half. Teams get that in one play. You can't possibly win a football game getting 4 yards in the second half. And the New York Jets did the same exact thing yesterday. They did not get 4 yards. They got more than that, but it was still atrocious. And the New York Jets fail once again. And this is just horrible. Their defense played bad, right? I don't want to be mean by this. I don't want to bash a player. It was his first start. He was going against the Chiefs, going against Mahomes. I mean, it's a tough task for a rookie to go in there. But our safety, Ashton Davis, and I was saying this yesterday when I was watching the game, I'm sorry. I don't think that was the best draft pick ever. I understand he made a lot of bad plays yesterday. A lot of horrible plays. And it wasn't even the fact that he was against the Kansas City Chiefs. He just made some bad reads on some straight up bad plays. He missed some tackles. That's not the Kansas City Chiefs. If you're missing tackles, you're just missing tackles. He missed some tackles. He had some coverages where he just absolutely blew. There was one play on Tyreek Hill where he completely blew his assignment and Tyreek Hill was wide open. I mean, that's not the Kansas City Chiefs. That's just straight up Ashton Davis. So, Douglas talked very highly of him. He thought he looked very good in California when he was at the California University. He looked very good there, he said. He thought he played really well. He could return kicks. He's quick. He's strong. He's almost a little bit of he's strong and he's quick. Like, he's kind of gets around. He's not the biggest dude ever. He's not the tallest guy ever. He's shorter. He's a little stockier and he's fast. That's what a lot of people has always said about him. But yesterday, he just had so many blown assignments. I mean, there were so many times in that game, they throw it deep, and guess whose man it was? Oh, Ashton Davis's. And we got rid of Jamal, and we thought Davis was going to be the answer. I didn't see it yesterday. I understand it's against the Kansas City Chiefs, and that's a very difficult situation for a rookie to go into. But the missed tackles is not the Kansas City Chiefs. That's just straight up missed tackles. And the blown assignments, that's not the Kansas City Chiefs. That's just straight up a bad play by the player. I mean, you could blow an assignment against the New York Giants. You can blow an assignment against the Jaguars. You can blow an assignment against anyone. You could blow an assignment against the New York Jets. A missed tackle is not because the team's good. You're just missing tackles. So I did not like what I saw at Ashton Davis yesterday. And overall, I thought this defense looked ugly. I did not think there was a couple good plays. There was a couple of run stuffs. But outside of that, I mean, they almost let up 40 points. Mahomes went off. This secondary was awful. I mean, it was atrocious. And the Jets have had an atrocious secondary. I've been saying this for years. For a good 3-4 years now, the Jets secondary has not been solid. We bring in a guy. We think he's the answer. It's not the case. Our cornerback core has been awful for years now. The one bright light in our secondary is Bless Austin and Brian Poole. Other than that, our secondary is awful. Marcus May in the safety. I'm talking about corners. Poole's good and Austin's good. Dezier's bad. Ashton Davis, who can play cornerback, has struggled. I mean, we just don't have a good secondary. The Jets have never had that, and that's what happens when you go up against Mahomes. Mahomes went off. Mahomes had 416 yards and 5 touchdowns. 5 touchdowns. 416 yards and 5 touchdowns. And Darnold struggles once again. And this is the problem with Sam Darnold. He honestly, and I've said this so many times now, he should honestly request a trade. Because his career is getting ruined on this team. And I've said that so many times now. His career is getting ruined playing for the New York Jets. He went 18 to 30 yesterday, 133 yards, 7.4 was his average. He took a sack and a 70.6 rating. Not what we want. Gore had 10 attempts, 30 yards. And this is another thing that annoys me about Adam Gase, right? You want to see what your young guys can do, right? Frank Gore is a Hall of Famer. He's not the future of this team. You want to see what your young guys can do. LaMichael Pirine only had 8 carries yesterday. When you're 0-8 and you're down by 20 points, and you're down by forever. They lost yesterday by 26. When you're down by that much, bring in LaMichael Pirine. Bring in your rookies. Bring in your backups. Bring in the guys that are going to be the future of this team. Don't keep running the ball with Frank Gore. This has nothing to do with Frank Gore. Again, I'm not against Frank Gore. I think he's a great player. He's a very good mentor to the younger guys. I understand. But even Frank Gore, I would think, would say this. A good coach, if you're down by 26 points and you have no shot in the game, you want to see what your rookies, the future of the team, can do. You don't want to, what does it matter if Frank Gore gets a good run? He's not your future. You might have him for this year and that's it. He's not the future of this team. Well, Michael Pirine might be your running back for the years as we know. I would assume at least he's going to be the running back next year. Right? Come on. You got to give the guy the ball. And that annoys me. When you don't see Pirine out there, at this point in the season, I just want to see how the rookies do. I kind of want to see what the rookies do. I thought Mims, I've liked what I saw out of Mims. Pirine has showed moments, but he has not gotten the ball much to really show his full potential. To be honest, the New York Jets are not utilizing their rookies the right way. Mims had another good game. 2 catches for 42 yards. He had a very good catch, but Pirine, 8 attempts, 8 carries is not going to fully show you what this kid's capable of. And I don't know what he's capable of. I don't know if he's going to be a stud. I don't know if he's going to be meh. I don't know if we're going to have him for this year and get rid of him and pick up another guy. I don't know what we're going to do with him, but I want to see what we can do with him. I want to see him play. If Frank Gore gets a good run for 15 yards, how does that help us if we're down by 26? I would rather see what Pirine can do. Gore is here just to be there, mentor the running backs, kind of just one of those one-year contract things. He's not here to be the future of this team, to be here for the next 3-4 years and be great. Frank Gore's already done that. Now Frank Gore's just bouncing around the league being a quality running back. I want to see what Pirine can do. They're not getting him involved at all, and that's on Adam Gase. And Adam Gase all he says is, blah, 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 we're going to get Pirine involved, this, and this. Yeah, no, you're not. I feel like something with Adam Gase and these running backs, he just doesn't like to use them. I feel like he doesn't like to use running backs. He just doesn't like them. I don't know what it is. I don't know if a running back scared him when he was younger. Something about running backs Adam Gase just doesn't like because he doesn't run. He doesn't use them. He does not use his running backs the right way. He doesn't use them. You know what he will use them on, though? A 3rd down and 25 when you should be throwing the ball. Stupid. New York Jets lose 35-9, move to 0-8. On the season. That's fascinating. 0-8. Really good. I'm really proud. To be rooting for a team that's 0-8. God, just horrible. So, 8 more games left of the season. We're halfway through. So, 8 more games left for the New York Jets, including a game Monday night against the Patriots. And then, obviously, you have the bye week. Then you play the Chargers. Then the Raiders. And then so on and so forth. So, and then we still have the Seahawks coming up. And it's going to get ugly for the New York Jets, to say the very least. The New York Jets are far, far from meh. We are awful. Worst team in the NFL. We fall again, 35-9. Didn't even show up in Kansas City. I think we stayed back. I think the Jets stayed back at their facility. Didn't even show up. Moved to 0-8 on the season. Just absolutely miserable. So they moved 0-8 on the season. Now let's get into the rest of the NFL games from the Sunday in the NFL. Let's get into the rest of the games. So here we go. So we had the Eagles and the Cowboys. The Eagles won 23-9. Cowboys lose. I noticed a lot in this game I noticed early on the Cowboys were running the ball, or not running the ball. They were really running some of these trickery plays, and I like that out of the Cowboys, right? And I it might just be because I do like Mike McCarthy. I think he's a very good coach, but I do actually think there was a very good play calling by McCarthy. Is they knew that they were gonna have, they knew that the Eagles were the better team. You know, they were coming in with their starting quarterback. They were coming in and one of the more healthier. They're kind of, this is one of the more healthier times they've been all season. They knew that the Eagles were the better team, and they still ran trickery plays. They ran different types of plays. They knew that, right? And that's one of the big things I noticed about. That's one of the big things I really liked about McCarthy and his play calling. He knew they were the better team. He went out there and he ran some trickery. They were really playing well. They had a lot of good runs, too. They had one drive. They ran just 7 straight runs. But at the end of the day, they're missing Prescott. And it's just, I think this even proves my point even more how Prescott's a top 10 quarterback. And the reason is because look what happened. He got taken out of that team, and look what has happened. They're 2-6 right now. I mean, this is a team that's probably far from playoff. They're 2-6 now. Anything's possible, I guess, in the NFC East, but I don't foresee them making the playoffs. And you see what Dak Prescott has called. I mean, what Dak Prescott's injury has done to this team. I mean, what is this? It's costed this team big time. I mean, and you know, it stinks that he got injured. You know, it really does. And you know, luckily, you know, Prescott's, you know, should be back next season healthy. But it really does show you how good Prescott is. You know, because without him, this team just does not look the same. And, you know, the Cowboys look lost out there. They really do. So, Cowboys are going to have to figure something out quickly, because if they want any somehow way of turning their season around, some miracle way of them turning their season around, they're going to have to do it quickly, because they have the Steelers up next, and that's not going to be easy. And they could very well be 2-7 by the end of next week, and that's just not a good position to be in. So the Cowboys, if they want to do stuff, they got to turn around quickly. And as for the Eagles, they ultimately were the better team. I mean, coming into that game, they were the better team. Coming out of the game, they were the better team. And not much else has to be said for the Philadelphia Eagles, other than they stopped them in the second half. The Cowboys relied on field goals. You're not going to win a game kicking 3 field goals. I said it with the Jets. I'm going to say it with the Cowboys. Eagles were ultimately the better team. Kind of simple. Eagles win 23-9. The Saints-Bears game, this was a very, very, very good game. Saints won 26-23. There was a big brawl in this game. There was a punch, and you know what happens when a punch comes. There's 15, 20 players that swarm the fight scene, and it was a complete brawl. It was pretty crazy, but at the end of it, I think it all got cleared up, and ultimately the Saints ended up coming out on top. This game went into overtime. I mean, you think about this game, you know, Nick Foles, I remember watching the play. Nick Foles had the ball. It was like a 3rd down and 5 or a 2nd down and 5. I'm not sure. If you look at it, they went back, and they went really back. The linebackers they set up 6 on the line. Linebackers went back. It was an overall good blocking by the Bears offensive line. Foles actually stepped up into the pocket, rolled to the left, but it was not a good idea because all of his receivers were to the right side of the field, and Foles was to the left of his line. Foles rolled out left, but all of his receivers were to the right side of the field. So Foles would have had to made a back foot throw across his body in order to hit one of his receivers. And he didn't do that. Instead, Foles tried to turn around and run the other way, and sure enough, he ended up getting sacked for a huge loss that ended up kind of setting up a 3rd down and long, and they ended up not converting. And then the Saints, sure enough, the next possession, after the punt, drive downfield, kick the field goal to win in overtime. But involving the whole situation with the Bears, Foles had a good 5, 10, 15 yards of running room ahead of him. He takes that ahead of him. He takes that running room. A completely different ball game. And ultimately, I think what came down to this game was who would bend late, right? These two teams, who would break late. These two teams were tired, overtime, cold weather. not, really grinding out every single play. I think it was really who came down, who broke late. Both teams were bending. Both teams were bending going to overtime. It was who broke late. Ultimately, it was the Chicago Bears and the New Orleans Saints win. Saints now have won 4 straight. So, obviously they start off 1-2. People were talking about possibly being sellers at the deadline, getting rid of Michael Thomas. That stuff is no longer true. They're 5-2, right back in position to win a division again. So the Saints win 26-23. We now move to the Seahawks and the Niners game. Jimmy Garoppolo gets injured once again. Seahawks, DK Metcalf and Russell Wilson, they're just a dominant duo. I've said this so many times now, not just on the podcast, but just to other people. This duo of Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf is going to be the next big thing in the NFL. You could just see it. You got an MVP favorite, more than likely an MVP as long as he keeps it up in Russell Wilson, and you've got a top 10 receiver this season, maybe top 5 in the NFL, in DK Metcalf. This is the Seahawks are building something special over there. And what I noticed about the Seahawks is they're building with not only young talent, but they're also building with experience. You have a couple older players. You have a young player in Adams on the defense. You have a couple older players on that defense. You have what you could call a veteran quarterback in Wilson. He's been in the league for 8-9 years now, so you could call him a veteran. And then you have some young talent. You have a guy, Chris Carson, who's on the younger side of things. You have DK Metcalf, who obviously just got drafted last season. Tyler Lockett, who's been around for a long time, right? That's what I like about this Seahawks team, and that's why I think it makes them so successful. There's a mix. It's not only veteran players and experience, it's also a mixture of experience, veterans, and youngsters and rookies and draft picks, right? And I think that's where the Seahawks are really building something special. And as for the Niners, Kittle got injured, Garoppolo got injured. When it comes down to when you lose, you can make the argument your 2 best already had Monster out already. Guys like that were out. When you lose them 2, and then you already have Mostert out, and then all the injuries on defense against a powerful offense like the Seahawks, this game was not good for the Niners. The Seahawks ended up winning 37-27. Next up, we got the Broncos and the Chargers. So the Chargers, once again, bend and break late. Chargers moved to 2-5 on the season. They blow yet another lead. The Broncos were down 30-24 with 1 second left. Drew Lock calls hike. Fakes the handoff, a little play action, rolls out to the right. Now, when I was watching this play, because I saw it, when I was watching this play, I was thinking right then and there, when he rolled out to his right, I was sitting there thinking, yeah, no, he's not going to complete this. Because you want to know why? Because the linebacker came crashing in on Drew Lock. And Drew Lock, this is where you could really tell Drew Lock's going to be a future good quarterback in this NFL. He made a very good decision on this play. There was a linebacker that was crashing down on Drew Lock. Drew Lock saw him. He only had about 3 seconds, not even that, to throw this ball. He had another cornerback going. He had a corner behind KJ Hamler. The way he was running, and this linebacker was crashing in on him, the way he was able to throw that ball perfectly right to KJ Hamler shows you that there is something special with this guy. Drew Lock, it was a very good throw, and this Chargers defense really busted. It was a play action. They faked it. He rolled out right. Linebacker came running in, and with that linebacker actually coming running in, that actually left the tight end open. But then the other linebacker came across and covered him. So Lock, that option was closed. Almost every option was closed down. I would love to find out, with the Amazon Web Services and all that, I would love to find out the catch probability of this ball. It was probably like 3%. He fitted it right in there. He maybe had this much space from the defender and KJ Hamler, and then obviously he had the linebacker running at him. He had about maybe this much space, and he was able to throw it. Perfect throw. That throw was a little off. It was deflected. Game over. Perfect throw by Drew Lock. Chargers ended up losing 31-30. I noticed something with the Chargers. I find their defense is just not strong. Their defense is showing more and more weaknesses every week. I find that, every week they're showing a weakness. This week it was their secondary. You talk about that game, talk about their secondary. This week, a couple weeks, it's been last week it was their run defense. James Robinson absolutely went off. Right, he had a big game. I notice every week there's a new weakness to this defense. I'm noticing the problem is this defense. Chargers lose and Broncos win 31-30. Tua made his start against the Los Angeles Rams and got a warm welcome to the NFL. One of his first drives of the game, Aaron Donald strip sacked him. and they got the fumble recovery. The Dolphins still did manage to win this game. Tua did not play his best football. He had a decent game. I mean, he wasn't stellar. He wasn't amazing, but it was his first game, and he was going against a top 5 defense in the NFL. He was going against Aaron Donald, and I said this on Friday. If he gets hit by Aaron Donald, he'll be fine with anyone else in the league. So he did get obviously strip sacked early on with Donald, and obviously he got hit. Now he understands what an NFL hit feels like. And your first sack or your first strip is your first strip sack or whatever, and it's Aaron Donald. You should be pretty good if you can handle that hit with anyone else, because Aaron Donald's one of the hardest hitting defense linemen in all the league. Tua went 12 of 22, 93 yards, 7.8 was average, a touchdown, took a sack, and 83.3 was a rating, right? Nothing special, but he was going against a very good defense. Next week, they do play the Cardinals, so more of a reasonable game for Tua. I think you'll really get what really Tua could be like out of there, because he was playing against a very good secondary and a very good defensive line. So the Dolphins win there. The Steelers and the Ravens. This was a very good game. This game came down to the last second as well. There was a questionable call late. But the Steelers defense late, I noticed they stepped up in a big moment, and they stepped up big. The Steelers won 28-24. They were adding Avery Williamson, who obviously got traded from the New York Jets. Obviously, they win 28-24. Lamar Jackson, final play of the game, stepped back, threw it across the middle to Willie Snead in the end zone, missed it. Questionable call on Minkah Fitzpatrick. Some people say it was targeting, some people don't. If you ask a Ravens fan, he'll say it was targeting. If you ask a Steelers fan, he'll say it's not. You know the side. I personally don't think it was. He was kind of going for the ball. They were all going for the ball, but it is what it is. And I thought the Steelers came out and played really well. I thought the Ravens hung around, but ultimately this Steelers defense is really good. I mean, they were able to stop Lamar Jackson. They were really able to contain him. He didn't get out of the pocket that much. I really noticed that, he was really, they really did play well. I mean, Lamar Jackson ran the ball 16 times only for 65 yards. So they were really able to, I think, really, really, really able to play very well on that side of the ball. And the Steelers defense, once again, steps up in a big moment in the game. You obviously had the one play where Jackson wanted to throw it late to the sideline to get out of bounds, to get closer. J.J. Watt hit his chest, or hit him, and he jarred the ball loose. Was a bad throw, and sure enough, they had to really force a long throw to the end zone. To T.J. Watt, I'm sorry. So, obviously, Steelers played very good, and their defense played very good. The Packers-Vikings. There was 2 guys that scored in this game, Dalvin Cook and Devontae Adams. And Dalvin Cook had a huge day. Dalvin Cook had 163 yards and 3 touchdowns and ran the ball 30 times. And Devontae Adams had 53 yards and 3 touchdowns. So there was 2 guys that scored in this game. Actually, as a matter of fact, Kirk Cousins threw one to Dalvin Cook. So there was 2 guys that scored in this game. Dalvin Cook had 4 total touchdowns, 3 rushing, 1 receiving. So Dalvin Cook had 4 touchdowns. He had all 4 of theirs. And Devontae Adams had all 3 of the Packers. Now, if you want to count quarterbacks getting touchdowns, then yes. But technically, talking about receiver or running back positions, there was 2 guys to score in this game. That was Dalvin Cook scored 4 times, 3 rushing, 1 receiving. Adams scoring 3 times, obviously all receiving. But this was a good game. This was a shootout. I was expecting the Packers to win, but this was a shootout. I mean, this was a lot of this was 2 guys, Devontae Adams, Dalvin Cook going at it, and sure enough, Dalvin Cook came out victorious. But the Packers, man, that's a hurt. That is a tough loss. Luckily, that's what's sometimes good about those bad losses is now you have a quick turnaround against the Niners team who knows if they're going to have a Kittle, who knows if they're going to have Garoppolo. Things are going to get interesting there. So, definitely going to be interesting. Packers could definitely get a quick bounce back if they win on Thursday. Now we move to the Bengals and the Titans. I'll tell you what, man. Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert and guys like that, they're taking it. They're special. They're special players. I mean, this is the future of the NFL. The future of the NFL looks bright with Joe Burrow, with Justin Herbert, with guys like that in the NFL, with Tua. Although I want to see more of him. He's only played 1 game. As for Herbert and Burrow, they've got multiple games under their belt. Tua's only got 1, but the future of the NFL for quarterbacks is bright. Burrow and Herbert has been everything and some, especially Herbert. Obviously, Burrow was the number 1 pick, so a lot of people had high expectations. So he's, I'm sure, lived up to them. Herbert, I'm sure he's lived up to some of the expectations and some. I thought Herbert coming out of college was going to be really good. Did I expect him to do this great? Probably not, but I also didn't really expect him to be playing this much. Obviously, Tyler Taylor getting injured for the rest of the season does, make Herbert the starter, so I was not expecting him to play that much, but obviously, sure enough, he did. I mean, I was expecting him to play probably by like week 3, week 4, because I don't think Tyler Taylor's all that good. But the Bengals did win this game, and I noticed man, this Titans need to get this secondary correct. Obviously, their secondary is the weakness of this team. Their run defense is their strength. Their secondary is the weakness of this team. They need to get that secondary figured out. If they want to make a run in the playoffs, if they want to make a run against some of these high-powering offenses, they need to get this secondary right. They have a couple, they have a couple games coming up where they're going against some, they gotta get this offense correct. They gotta get this secondary correct, is what I really should say. They really do, because you're gonna have to really watch out, because this is a team that this is a team that their secondary is the weakness, and this is a good team, but they gotta get this secondary figured out if they want to win. If they want to win big games and make it far in the playoffs. Now I moved to the Colts and the Lions game. I thought the Lions were honestly going to move to 4-3 yesterday, but they did not. The Colts won. Nakeem Hines had a big day. Phillip Rivers playing well. I mean, this is an interesting Colts team. It's not these big names. It are these smaller name guys that are coming out big in big moments. And that's really what you need of a team. You don't need all these big name players. If you have these medium name guys, these names that aren't the biggest in the world, you go out there and you perform well, you're going to earn your spot on the team. This is a Colts team that is filled with that. Who knows if Kenny Golladay, there are a lot of questions for the Lions. Who knows if Kenny Golladay has played his last game in a Lion uniform? We're not sure. We'll find out, I'm sure, tomorrow, because the NFL trade deadline is tomorrow. So you're going to get a lot of trades coming up within the next 24 hours. There's going to be a lot of trades, whether that's with your team, whether that's just around the NFL. There's going to be a lot of trades coming up with the NFL trade deadline coming up here. So who knows if Kenny Golladay played his last game as a Lion? We're not sure, but there is definitely a possibility. But the Colts ultimately came out and won 41-21. Their defense is really solid. Early on, their defense was struggling. They stopped DeAndre Swift, though. Early on, it looked like this game was going to be a complete shootout, and it was for the Colts, not for the Lions. The Colts win big, 41-21. Raiders-Browns in the windy game. A lot of missed kicks, a very boring game. The Raiders came out on top, 16-6. A very boring game. I mean, 16-6, windy game, missed kicks, barely making field goals. I mean, this was one of these games where if you're a defensive lover and you love to see 3-0, 6-3 games, then you love this game. But if you're a person that likes offense, enjoys 40-40 or 45-40 or 50-46, whatever, if you're one of those people, then you must have hated this game. But ultimately, the Raiders came out on top, and the Raiders' defense played really, really well. And I don't know if this is a sign of something, but this Browns offense really struggled. Now, I'm not going to go ahead and say it's because of Beckham. I know a lot of people think it is. I'm not going to go ahead and say it, but it is something to think about. Their offense really struggled yesterday against a good Raiders defense, but it's not to the point where it's insane. So the Raiders obviously win 16-6, and the Raiders now are 4-3. So the Raiders are cruising. They're going around, and the Raiders have a couple of games coming up that are definitely winnable. They have the Chargers next week. That's winnable. And then, then they have the Broncos. That's winnable. The Raiders have a lot of winnable games coming up. I mean, they do. I mean, they have to play the Chiefs again, who they already beat. But they have the Chargers. Then they have the Broncos. Then they have the Jets. They do have the Chiefs mixed in there. But the Chargers next, or the Raiders' next 4 or 5 games are very winnable. This could be a Raiders team that, if they continue to play like they are, they could possibly finish 9-7, 10-6 range. Their next 4 to 5 games, they got the Jets, they got the Broncos, they got the Chargers. They do have the Chiefs in there. But they do have some easy opponents coming up. So, who knows? It's going to be interesting here. And then we cap it off with the Bills and the Patriots. The Bills won 24-21. Bills defense comes up big late. Justin Zimmer for the Bills come up big late. Strip sacks. Cam Newton. They ended up winning the game 24-21. Tell you what, the Bills and Josh Allen made this thing interesting. One key I noticed on this game was they took advantage of this Patriots defensive line, and they ran the ball a ton. Their secondary, Gilmore, the McCourty, all them, their secondary is very good. What they did do yesterday, though, is they showed that they really exposed the Patriots' weakness, and that is their run defense. And they ran all over them yesterday. And a big day in the run game. And they were able to win that game because of the run game and because of big defensive plays late in the game. Bills win 24-21. Bills have a big game coming up this week. They have a huge game coming up. They play the Seattle Seahawks. So, that's going to be a huge game. It's going to be very interesting. I don't think the Bills probably win, but, who knows? It's going to be a very interesting game. So, obviously, that's going to be interesting to see who wins there. Obviously, Falcons-Panthers already played. So these were, that's kind of just the outcomes. That kind of what happened with another football Sunday in the books. Now we move on to the game tonight. We got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the New York Giants. Buccaneers come into this game 12.5-point favorites. The over-under is 45.5. Some notable injuries. This is very notable. Chris Godwin is out with a finger injury. Some players for the Giants, C.J. Board, concussion, questionable. Colbert, free safety, shoulder is out. And Devontae Freeman, ankle, is also out. So the Giants are missing some key pieces to that offense as well as the Buccaneers. So definitely some injured, halted teams here. The Buccaneers come into this game 5-2 versus the 1-6 Giants. Points per game, Buccaneers are second. Points per game allowed, Buccaneers are sixth. Defense has played very well this season. Total yards per game, 14th. Pass yards per game, 8th, 22nd in rush yards per game. Yards per game allowed, first. And, that's kind of it. So, these are the battle of two good team and a team that's not so good. And my pick for tonight's game is pretty obvious, I would say. I think the Buccaneers are going to come out and win. That's personally what I think. I have the Buccaneers winning 31-14. So let's get over here. So 31 plus 14, that is 45. So I have the Buccaneers winning 31-14. And I think 31-14, that's 45. So 45.5, I actually take the under then. So I take the under on the over-under 45. Buccaneers do cover, and they win 31-14. That is my pick for tonight's game. Although I'm hoping that the Giants I'm actually hoping for fantasy purposes that the Giants offense does very well, because I'm going up against the Bucs defense, and if they have a good game, then I don't know if I'm going to win. So it's going to be interesting. But we'll go into the fantasy league in just a second here. So coming up next, we got fantasy football results. Alrighty, so another week of fantasy football in the books, although tonight I do have two guys playing tonight in both leagues. I have Mike Evans in one league, and I have Ronald Jones in the other league. So definitely going to be a pretty good game tonight, and it's going to set up for pretty close watching by me. I'm going to be very watching this game like I always do, very closely, but especially tonight. I've got Mike Evans, and I got Ronald Jones. And my opponent had one league. My opponent has nothing. It's tied 83-83. My opponent has nothing. So all I need Mike Evans to do is literally get me 1 point. He gets me 1 point, that's okay. I win. If he gets me 0, then I'm going to be very angry. I don't think Mike Evans won't, especially with Godwin out. That's why I didn't bench Evans. I know a lot of people said to bench him, but he's going against the Giants. I noticed with Godwin out, they're going to target him a lot more. The Giants may double him. But still, I think Mike Evans is that good. I still think he'll do good there. And in my other league, I put in Ronald Jones. Now, a lot of people might disagree with this just because Leonard Fournette's back. Now, with Ronald Jones last week, his carries did not decline because of Leonard Fournette was back. He still had 13 carries, and he still had a good game. He still had 9 points. So people think just because Fournette's back that he's going to do bad. I personally don't think that. Jones has earned his spot in that roster, has earned his spot on that team. They're not just because Fournette's going to come back, who's had an injury-halted season. They're not just going to because he came back. They're not just going to all automatically be like, oh, all the carries go to Fournette. Jones has earned his spot on that team. He has not been injured. He's been able to stay healthy. I think Jones gets a lot more of the carries. I think he'll get 3-4 more carries. So right now I'm winning 92-88 in my one league. My opponent still got Tampa Bay defense, I've still got Ronald Jones. I'm projected to win 103-96. So it's going to come down to the wire. These was my points to this week. Rodgers got me 28. Elliott got 3, or Elliott got 7. Gurley got 10, obviously you already know. Adams got 23. DJ Moore got 5. Kittle got 3. Jones still has to play. Rams defense got 8, and Butker got 5. And my bench, Schuster got 6. Carson got 0. He was out. David Johnson on bye week. Bills defense got 4. Allen Robinson got 14, Robert Woods got 21, and Matt Ryan got 17. So, Allen Robinson had a 14. I did not expect him to play. He did not practice all week, was in concussion protocol. Then out of the middle of nowhere, he goes out and has 14 points. So, obviously, definitely regret not putting him in, but I didn't. I switched that last second, obviously, because I did not think he would play, but should have put him in there. And my opponent, he still got, it's going to be a close game. So, I'm going to need Jones to have a good game for me. I'm going to need Ronald Jones to definitely do very well for me tonight. And in my other league, this is my other league, how it went. It's tied 83-83. I'm projected to win 91-83. I still got Mike Evans. Like I said, all I need Mike Evans literally to do for me is to get 1 point. He needs to get 10 yards, and that's it. I don't care if that's an ugly 10 yards, whatever. He just needs to get me literally 1 point, and I win. So that's kind of all I'm hoping for there. Joe Burrow had 17 points. Edwards Elaire had 3. Swift struggled. He only had 2. Hill had 21. Evans still got to play. Keenan Allen had 12. Hunter Henry had 3. A.J. Brown had 8. Rams defense had 8. Daniel Carlson had 9. My bench, Watson bye week. Drake bye week. Robinson bye week. Gibson bye week. Claypool had 8. Godwin is obviously out tonight's game. So hopefully I win in both leagues tonight. Got Mike Evans and Ronald Jones going. So just know that I'm rooting for Mike Evans and Ronald Jones. And on offense, I'm actually hoping that the Giants do pretty well because I obviously don't want the Buccaneers defense to do good. So just know that. So Ronald Jones and Mike Evans playing in both leagues. So I think Ronald Jones will do good. Obviously, I know there's been a lot of talk around that. So now we move on to the college, what happened on the college side of things. Clemson made things interesting, but they did in fact win. It was interesting, but they did still pull out the win. Clemson won 34-28. Their backup quarterback played well, but overall as a team, there was a couple turnovers, just not good, and just wasn't their best playing performance ever. Clemson won 34-28. They did get the win, and they remain at number 1, so they still are there. BYU won 41-10. Oklahoma won 62-28. Virginia won 44-41. SMU won 51-37. Ohio State won 38-25. Texas A&M won 42-31. Florida won 41-17. There was a big brawl in that game. Alabama won 41-0. Boise State won 49-30. Indiana won 37-21. That was one of the craziest plays I've ever seen at Rutgers. 7 or 8 laterals that did get called back, but it was still insane. I'm sure a lot of you have seen it. It's been all around the internet. It's pretty crazy. Texas won 41-34. Notre Dame won 31-13. West Virginia won 37-10. Iowa State won 52-22. Michigan State won 27-24. Cincinnati won 49-10. Georgia won 14-3. Coastal Carolina won 51-0. So those were the college scores for another week in college football. So I'll tell you what, college football has looked good. I mean, you just hope that, you don't get any more of these outbreaks. I think, I don't know what it is with college. I just feel like the NFL and these other leagues have done a little bit of a better job. I don't know if it's just because college might not have as much money and stuff as these other leagues, but I don't know, just something about the whole college and their testing policy and stuff. I'm just hoping that, I really do hope that they can get in the national championship. And that might just be because do I think Miami will make it to the national championship and win it all? Probably not, but Miami is not completely out of the number 4 seed. They're not completely out of it. If Georgia somehow loses, if Alabama starts to lose, which is tough pass. But if you get some upsets that are going to shake up that top 10, Miami's on the outside looking into the top 10. They're at a number 11. If you get some of those shakeups in the top 10, upset, 1 or 2 upsets, and Miami squeaks in at 6 or 7, every week they get closer and closer, there's a chance. You're going to need some of those you're going to need some of those big upsets. Like, you're going to need like a Georgia or an Auburn or even like a team like an Oregon that's just coming to play. You're going to need one of those teams to struggle in order for them to come in. So you're going to need to see what they got to do. You're gonna need a top 10 shakeup if you want Miami to really have a chance there. And if you're one of those top 20 teams and you want to get into the top 10, you're gonna need a whole lot of shakeups. You're gonna need a shakeup in the top 15. You're gonna need a shakeup in the top 10. Let's just say Clemson, let's just say a team like Alabama lost, they would probably only move to number 7, so it wouldn't really affect the number 20 team. But that's what you're gonna need if you're Miami. You're gonna need some of those shakeups. You need to keep going out and winning games. You're gonna need some of those shakeups though. You're gonna need an upset here or there if you want to get in, because if those teams keep winning, they're not moving. They're there. They're like concrete. They're not moving. You gotta find a way if you can get some of those other shakeups, and you gotta win games too. If a crazy good team loses on the same week you do, that's not gonna really help you. You gotta keep winning. Obviously that loss to Clemson really hurt them because when they go in to make that poll, you look at all these other teams. They beat good teams, but they couldn't beat that really, really, really good team in Clemson. They got blown out. It wasn't even close. So Miami needs to get some of those revenge. They got a couple good games coming up. They got North Carolina State this week, who was ranked. Now is not anymore, but still a lot of people think are a pretty solid team. And you got Miami, who's 11th in the nation. So hopefully Miami can obviously come out victorious there. That will be a Friday night game, so we'll obviously talk about that then. But with all that being said, that will do it for the podcast today. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. Another football podcast in the books. Tomorrow we'll talk about the Monday night game and stuff like that. And then obviously tonight we got the Monday night game. We got the Buccaneers, Giants. I think Buccaneers will win, obviously, like I said. I think it should be a pretty good game. And then obviously talk about fantasy as well tomorrow. So another good football podcast in the books. Keep your eyes out for a trade deadline. There's going to be a lot of trades popping up here, there, with the whole virus thing and the whole, stuff with the whole travel and stuff. You might not see as much of it. It might not be as active, but you're still going to get some trade stuff. So keep your eyes out for that. I'll be looking through stuff like that. Especially tomorrow. Tomorrow's usually the big day. Today you'll find stuff. Tomorrow's usually the big day. Because the trade deadline is tomorrow. I think 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is when it's actual deadline where you can't make any more trades after that. So tomorrow, within that hour and a half, 2 hour range before that, you're gonna see a ton of trades. But you'll probably see some scattered trades today, especially if you're a team like the New York Jets where they're selling. You might just see trades left and right, like sell this guy, get rid of this guy, get rid of this dude, right? Now, if you're buying, you might not see that much because you might only be able to buy 1 or 2 guys. But if you're selling, you could sell as much as you can. Okay, goodbye, see ya, bye, right, stuff like that. So, you're going to definitely keep your eyes out for that. No really, so no real, obviously no real, no real trades yet, but obviously we had the trade yesterday with Avery Williamson, but no real huge trades like, you've heard Kenny Galladay's name pop up, you've heard Gilmore's name pop up, right? No huge trades yet, so we'll see if all those are true. You've heard AJ Green's name pop up. Are those going to happen? We don't know. We'll see. So that should be interesting. But all that being said, that will do it for the podcast today. Enjoy tonight's game. Enjoy it. Hopefully you enjoyed the podcast. I'll see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.